Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm Becky Parker Geist and I'm your host. Audiobook Connection is your place to learn about the audiobook creative process and for authors to learn valuable tips on producing and marketing your audiobooks. This podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Welcome to the 100th episode of Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Today we're going to focus on 3 things: commitment, consistency, and gratitude. And the reason I'm focusing on these for this episode is because those 3 values in my life have made all the difference in being able to get to this point. Let's start with commitment. I initially made a commitment to myself to follow through and to do this podcast. And there were challenges, especially in the beginning. I'm very picky about audio quality, and I had a hard time at first being satisfied enough to just get started. And at this point, I can just say I'm really glad that I did, and that it's perfectly acceptable to work on a project, get it started, and improve it as you go. This was certainly true in terms of creating more content, and in this case, in the podcast world, there were many things that I needed to learn and get used to and adjust to as I got started, but just the willingness and that commitment to myself to do it. And then there's also not just commitment to myself, but also my commitment to my listeners. And I knew at the beginning that I wanted to have a weekly podcast. And at first I started off with every other week because I wasn't sure how that would go. I was still getting used to it. But quickly I was able to get to the once a week episode. And my commitment for that really had to do with you, my listeners. It was really my decision that I was making a promise to you that I would be here every week with something that would be of value to you. It's much more than just showing up, although that is step number 1, but it's also about putting the thought and the care into providing something that I think will actually truly be helpful. When it comes to consistency, that was also very much connected to that commitment. I was committed to a consistent pattern, a consistent weekly podcast. And even though there have been a few weeks over the course of these 100 weeks that an episode was a little bit late, or the schedule was just a little bit off, for the most part, the episode schedule has been pretty consistent. And on those weeks when we missed our goal, our deadline, then I had to be able to just say, okay, I forgive myself and I forgive anyone else that may have been a part of the reason it being late. There are lots of things that can cause an episode to not launch on time. For example, not being recorded in time for the editor to do the editing, or the episode image not being ready, or the episode description not being ready, or somebody getting sick. Any number of things can happen that can throw the schedule off. And so that consistency, coupled with that commitment, has so much to do with being able to let that go, forgive myself and anyone else that was a part of that, and being able to move forward, continuing with the goal or modifying if needed. in this case, we've been able just to press on and have been pretty consistent with our 100 episodes so far. So very excited about that. And I'm celebrating today as a result of that success. And before I jump into the next one, I just want to highlight that because I want you to do the same thing. I have learned that taking the time to celebrate your little successes along the way, little and big successes in whatever you're doing, is a huge part of helping you become ongoing more successful. I've certainly found that for myself. It's something I have seen as I've been mentored by my mentor. And so I want to encourage you to take the time, even if it's just a little yes, it's worth it. It will help you build that sort of success muscle. And success is whatever you define it to be. So I'm not trying to say it is any one thing. It's whatever is success for you. What are you after? And the third thing is gratitude. Gratitude is absolutely essential every single day. And I would like to start off this little segment by expressing my gratitude for the team members that I have that help me get this podcast out on a regular basis. That includes the team that is doing the audio editing and mixing, creating the episode images, recording the ads, posting the episodes for distribution, writing the descriptions. To all my guests who have been interviewed on the show, for the social media team that is posting about each episode, and for the person who posts the episodes on our website. I'm grateful to my clients who ask questions and share stories about experiences they've had in the audiobook world and in working on their projects that then give me more information and help me to be able to answer those questions on this podcast so that I can help more people who may be running into those issues. And I want to wrap that up with thanking my mentor, Steve Napolitan, who has made a huge difference in my life and in our business. And what this brings up for me is team. When I first started narrating and producing audiobooks, it was pretty much me wearing all the hats, figuring things out, doing whatever needed to be done. And I would pretty much do that from the time I got up in the morning until the time I couldn't function anymore at night. Not really a healthy lifestyle. But that's what I felt I needed to do. And so I offer that as an opportunity for you to reflect in your own work and with your writing and your publishing. What team have you put in place to help you? What I've found is that the more I was able to gradually bring on more team members to work with me, it freed me up to be able to do more of the things that I do best. As president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association, I've seen that sometimes when authors feel really strapped for funds or like they don't really feel comfortable releasing any of the creative energy towards having help, that they end up trying to do it all themselves, just like I was doing. With a book, if you decide to edit your own book, as an example, that's generally a pretty bad idea because you really need those extra eyes. You need an outside perspective. And often the same is true with book covers. Book covers are incredibly important. If you don't have a book cover that draws your audience in, that is effective in reaching your audience visually, then you're going to have a really hard time marketing and selling that book at all. So the cover image is really important. And that's an area where many authors feel like, oh, I'll just put something together myself. So just something to consider as you're working on things. Are you spending your time to its best advantage? Are you doing what you love to do, or are you spending a lot of time doing the little things that you wish somebody else would do? Oftentimes, you can find somebody who can do those other things that you don't want to do, much more efficiently and quickly, and at an expense that is very manageable, especially when your time is freed up to do the things that you do best. I'm going to wrap up this celebratory episode with an invitation to join me next week for an interview with author Dorothea Hubbell-Bonneau, author of Once in a Blood Moon, a story about love, betrayal, and redemption that reframes American history. And my plan for the podcast in 2022 is to bring in more interviews so that you can hear more from authors who have gone through the audiobook process. You can hear what it's been like for them, and also hearing about some of these incredible audiobooks that are being created. So I hope you'll join me next week. Thanks so much for being with me today. Let's celebrate! Thanks for joining us for Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Please take a moment to subscribe at audiobookconnection.com. The podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Learn more at proaudiovoices.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and please join us next week.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.